Hello guys, I'm Rob Shaw and this is Raising Reef. So today's topic is all about auto feeders. Adding an auto feeder to your tank can be beneficial if you're going on holiday or you're at work for a long period of time and you want to spread those feeds out throughout the day. An auto feeder can be implemented onto your system to feed the tank when you can't be there to do it yourself. They range in price from relatively cheap right up to quite expensive. Essentially at the end of the day all they're going to do is pretty much the same function. They're going to dump a certain amount of fish food into your tank at set times throughout the day. So we'll take a look at each one of these units in turn and I will tell you what I like about them, what they're good for, what they're not good for, and whether I would recommend that you buy one and use it on your tank. So we'll start off with the cheapest and work our way up. The cheapest item is this one. This is the actual one that I use on my tank and this one comes in at £11.34. All of these prices come from Amazon and I will put links in the description if anybody wants to buy one of these items off of those links. This isn't a sponsored video. I have purchased all of these items myself, either for myself or one of my tank maintenance customers, and I thought while I had them all here I would go through them so that you can make a better decision about what one's going to best suit you. So this particular unit you can set to feed up to 4 times a day. When you add the batteries in, you have to set the time. You then set the times you want it to feed, and there is a third process where you can select how many times the drum will rotate and therefore how many feeds it will do on one cycle. And you can set that to rotate once, twice or not at all. They also have a manual feed button where if you decide to do a supplemental feeding of dry food you can just press the button and the drum will rotate and feed a little bit more to the tank. It's a very simple piece of equipment and that leads it to be pretty reliable. I've had the same one running on my tank for the last 8 years and all I do is occasionally change the batteries when they start to run low, and as long as you remember to set it back up properly with the correct times then you won't run into any issues. This particular one has a hopper on the front and you can pull that off away from the unit, which allows you to take it and clean it if it ever gets a bit gunky. You can then take the black piece off which connects to the thing and then you're left with the actual hopper itself. You can put that any food that you want in now. I think these are best for feeding flake food. The way that you adjust the little restrictor that allows you to feed more or less food, if you have that set to a small amount of food, some pellet sizes are going to be quite small and therefore just big enough to let some through is going to let a lot through. So that I don't think this is a particularly good unit to use with pellets. But for flake food I highly recommend it. Like I say, I've been using these, they're relatively cheap, they seem to be reliable. I used to run 2 of these on 2 different tanks that I had simultaneously. One lasted me for about 5 or 6 years, the other one's still going strong 8 years on. This is a new one that I've purchased for my new tank build and that will be being positioned over the tank in due course. So moving on from that one, we then have the Joule auto feeder. This one is a lot simpler in operation. Once you put the batteries into this and you press the on button, the time at which you press that button will indicate the first feed. The drum will rotate and then that will be set to feed at that time every 24 hours. If you want it to feed twice, you would then press the set button and that will set it to feed after the first feed 6 hours and then again every 24 hours. So it will only feed twice a day and this one comes in at about $15.99 I believe. So it's slightly more expensive than the cheaper model. This is slightly better configured to feed pellets, so if pellets is something you want to feed, this might be a more affordable option for you to feed pellets, but you won't be able to set the exact time that it feeds your tank. If you're happy to feed once or twice a day over at each end of a 6-hour period, then this is going to be a pretty good choice for you. This one also has an air intake on the back of it, which if you fit that to an air pump, it will feed air through the unit out of this spout in the middle. You can see that. And what that will do is continuously put dry air through the system and keep all of the food dry. Any moisture that has built up, it will evaporate that off, and it should help to keep the food from clumping up and going a bit soggy. So that's a good point. So moving on from that one, you have this one by JBL. This one was purchased by one of my clients for his tank, and we've since replaced it because it proved to be a little bit unreliable. I am at the moment testing this to see if it was just the batteries that were at fault or whether the unit itself was playing up. But it would just switch itself off for no reason and stop feeding the tank. This one works a slightly different way to the others. The setting is exactly the same. It has clear buttons on the front. It's very easy to operate. It comes with an instruction manual, and the instructions are very easy to follow. It has a large hopper on the front which you can fill with pellets. I think this would work best for pellets because it has like a corkscrew type fitting at the bottom, which basically rotates and basically feeds the food through at the bottom and then past a little flap, and it drops into the tank. You can set this to feed a lot, less. It will just keep turning this corkscrew part and keep feeding food into the tank, and then you can basically gauge how much it's feeding on the setting, and then you can dial it up or back depending on how much you want it to feed and how many fish you have. It also has a fitment to fit it to the edge of the tank if you wanted to clamp it to the glass side, and this allows you can position this right forward or right back depending on where you wanted to position and you wanted the food to feed. This one also comes with some additional suction cups which fit to the bottom instead of that bracket. You get 2 of these, and then you could just suction cup that onto a flat surface to feed into the tank if that's going to suit you better. The cheap one that I mentioned earlier only comes with that type of bracket. It also comes, I think, with a sticky pad with some Velcro, so you could just stick it directly to the top surface that you wanted to feed it from, and then just be able to rip it off with the Velcro in order to change the batteries. The Joule one only comes with some feet on it that I'm aware of, and because this is designed to ideally be used with the Joule tanks, and they have a little cut out for this to stand on the top, and then it just rotates and dumps some food through the lid, designed with the Joule tanks in mind. So yeah, this one can be fed up to 4 times a day again, like the cheap one that I used, but this one comes in at £35.60. So it's about 3 times the price of this one. It does have a very clear display on it, and like I said, it probably be best for using with pellets. If pellets is what you want to feed, this might be a better option for you than the cheaper version, and it has more functionality than the Joule. So it does offer you more for the money, and it does come with a 3-year guarantee. So they stand behind their product and they believe it's going to last you at least 3 years. This one also contains the import at the back for the airline, which will feed through and keep the pellets inside nice and dry. Do I recommend them? I think they'll be alright. Like I say, we had a bit of an issue. He bought 2 of these and they both played up a bit. They kept turning themselves off, and what I've done is I've just replaced the batteries with some new ones, and at the moment I've set it to go off and it's been working like a dream. If this one continues to play up, I will put an amendment in the description of this video so that if you check that, you can see if we continue to have any problems with this one, or it turned out to be just the batteries that were causing the issue and new batteries solved that. Like I say, it comes with a 3-year guarantee, so if we don't get any joy with that, I will be contacting them or seeing if my client has the receipt, and we can probably get it swapped out for a new model to see if it was just this one was a dodgy batch. I'm not sure if that's the case, because obviously he bought two. He bought a white one and a black one. It comes in 2 different colours. You can buy it in black or white to suit your decor around your tank. They both had the same issue, so at this point I'm wondering if they were shipped out with some dodgy batteries, or he picked up dodgy batteries that he was using in it and they were causing it to just shut off for unapparent reasons. So we'll keep an eye on that one, but if it turns out to be working fine, then I think that it's a good option for you, albeit a bit more expensive than the other two. This leads me on to the last one, which is the Eheim. There are a lot of copy versions of these available on Amazon, a lot cheaper than this one. Eheim are a tried and tested brand. They make good pumps, they make good equipment, and I'd be happy to rely on Eheim for any equipment because of the provenance that comes with their brand. This one is $39.99, so it is the most expensive out of the lot. I don't have the actual unit with me, I've just got the box, because this one is actually the replacement for this one, which is on my client's tank, and it is actually feeding the tank as we speak. This one works in operation very similar to this one in the way it's programmed, and it seems to be easy to use, and it has the manual feed button. It also has the air import to dry the food that's inside. And the way the hopper is set up, you can open the door enough, and the way that it's configured inside, this will be suitable for feeding flake food or pellets, whichever you want to feed. This is going to be ideal for that. I recommend this product. We've been using it for a couple of weeks on the tank, and it seems to be working fine. It's doing its job. The hopper holds quite a lot of food, so you won't have to keep continuously filling that up. And so far so good with this one. Like I say, it's the most expensive one at just under £40, but do you want to spend £40 on a piece of equipment that comes with a name brand that you are going to be able to rely on? Or are you going to take a chance on something that is a lot cheaper? May work just as well for just as long, but there is that possibility that you may be replacing it regularly, or it may fail at some point because it's made with cheaper components. This one is called a Resun. You can find dozens of units that look exactly like this that have got different names on them. Some of them don't have any names at all. They vary in price. I'm going to link to the one that I've bought. I started 8 years ago. I bought one. I've still got one of those going strong. One of them died after about 5 years, and I've replaced it with this one, which is brand new. So that pretty much concludes an overall look at the units that I've got in front of me. Choosing which one is going to be best for you will be based on your needs, what type of food you want to feed, how often you need it to feed, and how reliable you want that unit to be. These auto feeders come into their own when you have to go away from your tank for any length of time, be it you're on holiday, you're working away. You don't have to rely on someone who doesn't understand the tank to feed it for you. Getting them to feed it the right amount of food is difficult, and quite often there are disaster stories where people have gone away, left their tank in charge of somebody else, left somebody else in charge of their tank, and they have proceeded to feed their fish far too much. They've come home to hair algae growing everywhere and high nutrients in the system, and they've had a battle on their hands to get things back under control. So by fitting an auto feeder and having it feed the tank for you is a great idea. What I will say is, if you're only going to use this for when you're on holiday and you're not going to do it like I do and use it throughout the year, set it up before you go on holiday and have it running to feed probably a week before, just so that you've got that confidence that it's doing its job, it's not feeding too much, and you can allow it to go on and feed the tank while you're not there. So that about concludes this video on auto feeders. Like I say, I've put some links in the description so that you can easily find these products on Amazon. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you know a little bit more about auto feeders if you didn't already. Take it easy guys, and I'll see you in the next video.